My name is Luigi Montani. My birthplace was Jamaica, Queens, New York. Of course, I was born and raised in Jamaica, Queens, New York. The only time I left is when I left for the military. My family, my mother and father were immigrants from Italy. I have an older sister and two brothers. My sister was born in Italy, and she came here when she was 9 years old. Of course, with my parents, and my brothers and I were born here. Okay, I went to school in, of course, Jamaica, Queens, and did elementary school, junior high school. When I was 16 years old, I quit school. I did not have a head for school. I found it distasteful. I was left back, which is an embarrassment, and I just didn't want to go to school anymore. I took my mother into signing me out of school when I was 16, and I went to work. Pretty much everyone in my area, Italians, did construction work at that time. And I worked for a while, doing construction work. And when I was 17, I wanted to volunteer for the military. And
when was it? It was 19?
That was 1953. 3 or 4, I don't even remember. But anyhow, I knew there was a war in Korea. I didn't really think about it much. But they wouldn't take me at 17 without permission from my parents.
Right.
So I waited. When I was 18, I went down and I enlisted with I went to the local draft board and I volunteered for the military. And it was only a short while after that I went into the military. I was put into the Army, of course, and I served 2 years in the Army. Also, to elaborate a little more on that, I'm the first American-born in my family to serve in the American military, the American Army, and I'm very proud of that fact.
Must be.
And my father was a veteran of World War I. He served in Italy in World War I in the Navy.
Wow.
Okay. My other brother was already married and had children. My younger brother was too young. And I know they were drafting in my area, and most of them were going to Korea and whatever. And I didn't even really understand that much. I didn't know anything about Korea, and I didn't know I was going to wind up over there. But anyhow, I was inducted into the Army. I was I was sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I did my military training there.
What specialty?
Okay, I did 16 weeks of infantry training. Also, they gave me a 4-week course in communications. There's something called a field wireman, which I don't even know if they even use that anymore today. I was, a short while after that, I was put on a ship, and the ship went to Japan. First you go to Japan. And I was there for a short while, and they give you indoctrination classes. They explain to you what you're doing there, what we're trying to achieve here. And the word communist, I didn't even know, I wasn't even sure what it meant. I didn't know really nothing about communism. And they explained about communism, and they also explained to us that you're here to stop communist aggression. And that was in 1955. And like I said, I didn't understand much about it, or even Korea for that matter. When I first arrived in Japan, I wrote a letter home and I told everybody I was stationed in Japan. That wasn't true. There was only a staging area. It was a short while.
Do you remember when was that? Year and month?
Okay. I think it was around December of 1956. 56, I think. Yeah, 56.
1956?
Yeah, I think it was just
War broke out 1950 and ended in 1953.
53. To clarify that, I'm a post-war veteran,
I see.
okay? And this organization, how I joined this Korean War Veterans Association, it was explained to me by other veterans that that I'm entitled to join this organization because they recognize from 1950 to 1953 and any date beyond that, because they feel that the war really never ended. It was just a ceasefire, and the Korean War Veterans Association accepts this. And I went with my DD2 form, my proper papers, and they just they were glad to have me. The 1st Cavalry Division was on the DMZ. They covered most of the DMZ, and I served on the west coast of Korea, north of the Injim River, on the DMZ. And I did, I believe, 16 months or so, or whatever it was there. And you normally do 13 months, but I just stayed for more time or whatever. And I did my time there. During my time in Korea, actually...
That's a very interesting, because mostly people will understand that the Korean War veterans only from 1950 to 53, and as you mentioned, federal government extended up to January of 1955 for the
Right.
benefit-wise.
Right.
But still, after the war, they were very dangerous, and there are many soldiers like you from the United States to defend the DMZ, right?
That's
So,
100% correct.
could you describe about the situation around the DMZ while you were there? How
Yes.
was it?
We had checkpoints. They had set up barbed wire. We had a no man's land, in other words, a free fire zone. My unit, the company that I was assigned to, was an outpost. We were one company by ourselves.
So
like
far up to the DMZ.
Yeah, we were considered part of the DMZ, but we were on the west coast by ourselves. The main command was in back of us. They were south of us, and we patrolled the DMZ. And also we had checkpoints, and we had some towers. Some of the more dangerous place was the most northerly tower. There's the Koreans, the North Koreans are very belligerent. That any excuse or anything, they would start shooting. And we were told, even if you confront them, that we should not fire unless we return fire. If they fire, and we patrolled it. Like I said, they called it the no man's. We went over a bridge which spanned the Injim River. They said once you go over that bridge, it's the point of no return. And I totally understood it from that point. My time there, I made some friends. Also, they had South Korean soldiers mixed in with us. And they were very good, and they were considered my buddies, my friends. It was a little difficult communicating, but they were right there.
Do you remember any Korean Kachusa or Korean soldiers?
I don't remember their names, but there was 3 in my squad that were very good. And
could you describe a typical day of your patrolling over the DMZ? Must be very dangerous because they were heavily mined. And I heard from other Korean War veterans that there were no chance for them to even fire at North Koreans or the Chinese during the Korean War. But I guess that there has been some cases.
yes,
Could you describe a typical day of your patrolling, waking up, what time, and so on?
You would be assigned. They had a roster that they would assign squads to patrol different areas of the DMZ. We were told to not engage them unless you have to return fire or whatever. We would always put someone up front, and the Koreans was a common thing with the Koreans that with my unit was either number 1 or number 10. Number 1 means good, number 10 means bad. And the one Korean soldier that was part of my squad, he was up front, and he come running back, and he's yelling, number 10, number 10. He didn't speak much English. We knew right away there was a problem. And there was a North Korean patrol going the other way, and they were on the wrong side of the DMZ. We had a right to fire if we wanted to, but we were told to avoid them, and that's what we did. We avoided them. But I heard from other fellas, I was very fortunate in that respect, but I heard from other fellas that they actually engaged them. And I know some of the reality of it was, I remember that we also patrolled the river in back of us because they were known to flank us by coming down from the north on the river and coming up in back of us. The DMZ was heavily mined, heavily mined. We had tanks facing both ways, north and south. They were dug in. They were dug in like artillery pieces. What I did when it was called upon me was to run what they call field wire, but I was given a forward course on that. And it's pretty crude, but it works. And what it is, it's a wire with a little field phone, and what you would do with this thing is you connect the wire, and you would have connection between your two phones, between point A and point B, so you can communicate. I don't even know if they use that anymore. But I was stringing wire along the DMZ on the riverside, and somebody started yelling, they're flanking. And of course, everybody takes a position. And you see sometimes the river was pretty wide, and sometimes you would see stuff floating in the river, but these were bodies. It was bodies floating in the river. And we didn't know what they were, whether they were live. They wound up to be dead bodies. There was some kind of a firefight or something happened up north, and the bodies floated down past us. But we were, of course, alert and ready to fire. You know, it was a constant. It was a constant tension. And I'm very very lucky in the respect that I didn't get this soon. I did experience. I didn't receive any major wounds, but I did get frostbite in both feet and severe hearing loss from some of the shelling and whatever that they did at that time. They constantly were like maneuvered, kind of heavily on guard.
Yeah. What was the living conditions while you were in Korea? Where did you sleep? What kind of food did you have? And cold?
We had, of course, we had to spend so much time in. We had bunkers. We spent so much time in the bunkers observing. Then we had some tents and some Quonset huts. They were made out of metal. And we would have, for heat, we would have a potbelly stove in there and cots to sleep on. And it wasn't too bad. We had no running water, anything like that. We did have a mess tent. We had, you know, most times we can get hot food. And in certain situations we had to eat C rations or K rations, which was not so bad.
What do you mean by K ration?
It's another form of a C ration. It's a package, and there's a can there of There's a little pack of cigarettes. At that time, they would give you a cigarette. A little can of fruit, some hard crackers, and some cocoa or something that you mix with a little hot water. And you'd eat them. It's just, you know, that's, I didn't think, you know, you survived just the same. As far as water is concerned, the water that we got, we used to have to go get it. And they had a truck with a trailer. And we'd go to I guess it was a well or something. And they would fill that trailer and we'd bring it back into our area. And then you can fill your canteens. And then if you needed water, we never took a shower. If you needed water to wash yourself, you managed to stay clean, you know. You
never took shower?
I never had a shower.
Oh my goodness.
Never.
How
I stay
often?
clean.
Huh?
I stay clean.
Uh-huh. How often were you rotated from the DMZ service?
Actually, what you were entitled to, if you spent, I think it was more than 3 months at a time up on the DMZ, they would give you a 7-day R&R to Japan.
Uh-huh.
And I had 2 of them. And the conditions got a little, not much better, but a little better by the time I was ready to leave. And
were you back into the Seoul area or any part of the Korea while you were doing service there?
The only time we went to a rarer area was they had, if you were sick, or you needed medical attention, or you were wounded, or something was wrong with you, they would service you there, but they also had a truck that would go back south to, we called them aid stations. And something like what you see with me, she was tense and whatever, and they would help you with whatever problem you might have. You know, so if it was bad enough, they would send you, if you were sick or wounded bad enough, they would send you to Japan.
Did it happen to you so that you had a chance to look around Korea, what was like after the war? Have you had a chance to look around?
No, I've never had, I was offered the 60th anniversary to go back, but I'm a diabetic and I got a few other problems, and you know, I could have went, but I was invited to go, but I never did. But I know from the other fellas, and from what I read and from what I see and whatever, the achievements that the South Korean people have made. When let me just say this, when I was on my way up north, I believe I went through the city of Seoul, yes. And anything that I went through, I went to a transfer club, and then I was put on a train that went north. And I understand that train the railroad was built by the Japanese. And with old wooden cars. And I remember the train going somewhere near Seoul, going through all the buildings were down. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, the Korean people suffered. They really suffered.
So you saw it?
I saw it.
Yeah, you saw the devastation.
Oh, unbelievable. You know, the burnt out trucks and this and that. And the further north you went, the worse it got. And then there was one point where it was just nothing. And then, of course, you know, you go over the bridge and into the demilitarized zone area and whatever. And we also had an opportunity to go back across the bridge to more like a rarer town or something like that. I only went a few times. I did. What I think about is, of course, and it bothers me that I still think about it till today, to see them bodies floating in the water. The mined areas, I would, you know, I know there was one occasion where some fellas from another unit wandered off and into they somehow or another, and they got caught in the middle of that. They have these engineers with mine that to get them out of there. safely or whatever. Uh, my captain was a good guy. He's a and he was a good Christian, and they had a Christian orphanage to the rear. I believe it was Presbyterians. They didn't have much. It was an orphanage for the children. They had some tents and whatever. And when we got paid, we all gave a portion of our pay to that orphanage.
Oh, voluntarily.
Voluntarily. The captain would be there looking at you, but you do it voluntarily. And I was happy to do it. For me, of course, I'm a post-war veteran. For me, and I can understand for the other fellas, that was not a conflict. That was a war, in every true sense of the word. And forgotten, you don't hear much about it. If it wasn't for the Korean government and the South Korean people and whatever, there's really not much. The other thing I would...
Why? Is it not because it's a war in Europe, which is familiar to you? Or was it because the Korea that you never heard of before? And why is it people...
Okay, that's good. That's a good thought. I honestly don't know why they call it the Forgotten War, but it's not justified, because it was a war in the true sense of the word. I was there. I was also awarded, the fellas that served on the DMZ and whatever, that was awarded the Korean Defense Service Medal, and the Korean War Veterans Association recognizes us as Korean War veterans, even though we served after '53. I don't know. All I know is that me personally, I was very proud being the first American born in my family to serve in the American Army. I tried to do my job the best I could. I want nothing short of an honorable discharge. I'm proud of the South Korean people, very proud of the fact that I served there, and proud of their achievements. Also, I feel it's one of the only country that I know of that shows their appreciation to America and the other 21 countries that were involved in the Korean conflict, in the United Nations. I don't use that word conflict, in the Korean War, to show their appreciation for the help, because they wanted democracy, they wanted freedom, and it works. It works, and they're the proof of it. The future is what I tried to explain before, is that we have to defend. The agreement was made with the South Korean people in the United States that they would defend them as long as you have this armistice or ceasefire. And that we live up to our obligation. And the United Nations, whatever their pledge was, they have to live up to. This is something I think the general public of the United States should understand that. Not just Korean War veterans, but the general public, as to, I don't think they're really truly aware of how hard the South Korean people work to show their appreciation to the United States and to Korean War veterans.
I think you mentioned about the importance of mutual alliances between the United States and Korea.
Absolutely.
Right.
That alliance, as far as I'm concerned, no matter what, when, and where, should never end. Even if they're unified, it's even more important.
Yep.
And free people of the world should be there to help each other. That's why the United Nations went in and helped them. Being quitting school at 16, I didn't understand much. I didn't even understand what the word communist meant.
Yep.
I got married, and I raised my family. I had 2 children. I have a boy and a girl. They both have 3 children. I have 5 granddaughters. I have 2 great-grandsons,
Wow.
and I have a great-granddaughter. Yes, definitely,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. And I think this is a great thing. It makes more people more aware of what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes them aware of what happened from 1950 to 1953 and what's happening from 53 till today. When I was 16, 17, most of the older fellas in my area were drafted. And some went to Europe, a lot of them went to Korea. Some of them never came back. But that was what was going on at that particular time.